And we're on.
Okay.
And we're on. Hi, everybody who are just logging on to YouTube or to watch the workshop at tjohnsonmediagroup.com. Thank you for coming to today's workshop. We're going to get started here in a couple of minutes. If you're on YouTube live right now, you can use the chat box and talk to each other, ask us questions, share content, share information, and we will get started here and we'll be answering your questions at the end of today's presentation. We're starting in 2 minutes, so stand by. And for those of you who are continuing to log on, a lot of you coming in right now, thank you. Thanks for coming in. I'm Tracy, along with Mike Shepard and Andy Meadows, and we're going to talk today about Christmas programming, promotion, and personality. If you'd like to ask a question, you can do it in the chat box at YouTube Live. Just go to YouTube Live and go to Tracy Johnson Media Group, and you can enter the chat box there. And we will answer all of the questions that come in today as soon as our short presentation is over. Okay, welcome to workshop number 4. We've enjoyed these first 3 that we've done, and we are excited today because Halloween is over. We're into the 1st of November, and that means Christmas is right on top of us now. I'm Tracy Johnson, along with Mike Shepard and Andy Meadows from the Tracy Johnson Media Group, and today's workshop is all about Christmas programming, promotion, and personality, because we want you to win the holidays. So Mike and Andy, when I say, how do you win the holidays at Christmas time with all of the stations that are, some are already flipping to the Christmas format, how do you win the holidays? What are some of the important things that stations should be thinking about right now?
First step is to be purposeful and strategic and not just pick anything that says Christmas or holidays on it that comes across your email inbox and throw it on the air.
Yeah, I think we'll get into it here in the presentation, the workshop. But that's one of the things I've noticed is that there's not a lot of deliberateness and intentionalness, if you will, in terms of how a lot of stations approach the holidays. It's like, oh crap, we better put some Christmas songs on. Should we go Christmas? I don't know. Maybe the jocks should start talking about Christmas, and hopefully today will help you outline a strategic plan for how you're going to approach the holidays.
All right, well, let's talk about that. First of all, the most popular format in November and December is all Christmas music. And there's a tremendous power in being the Christmas music station in your market. Just last year, several stations in top 10 and even in top 5 markets broke all-time records in their market in all of history as the top rated station ever. And I'm talking to markets like Chicago and Philadelphia and some really, really big cities that with all the competition and with more radio stations than ever are breaking all-time records for share. In Tampa, 3 stations went to all Christmas music last year, and these 3 stations all doubled their ratings or more in the fall and holiday ratings period, and took over 25 share points out of the market with all Christmas. So there's a lot of power in this format. Mike does a lot of research with his the research division of his company. Mike, what are you seeing in the power of Christmas music?
Well, you're absolutely right. Christmas is extremely powerful, and I think it's important that that stations view it for what it is, which is more of a promotion than a format change. It really does induce new cume. We'll talk in a minute about how much of that you can retain, the type of cume you can retain, but it is an incredible cume-inducing magnet, and it almost never fails if you do it right.
Andy, what have you seen in with some of the stations that you work with that either have gone all Christmas or are going up against the all Christmas station?
I do have an all Christmas. It's an oldies format, and every year we're making the decision to go earlier and earlier, which I think is the right thing to do. As a programmer, it feels uncomfortable because it feels like it's too early. But I mean, when I took the kiddo trick or treating last night, and there were already a lot of houses with Christmas lights up. When you go to the store, you've noticed every year that's gotten earlier and earlier, and we complain about it, but there's a reason for that. People are comfortable with it earlier than they used to. I don't know if the pandemic had an effect on that or what, but for some reason, people are longing for the holidays a little earlier than they used to.
Yeah, I think the pandemic absolutely had something to do with the dramatic gains last year in Christmas music. I think that gives them comfort, a sense of nostalgia, a feeling of connected to when times were better. And that might have given those stations even a little bit more of a lift. But we're seeing it in market after market. And Andrew just mentioned that Star in Cincinnati flipped yesterday to all Christmas, and a couple of stations flipped over the weekend. So we're the 1st of November and stations are already going all Christmas. When's the right time to make the shift?
About a week earlier than you normally would.
Right.
Basically, yeah, earlier is better. I mean, for a couple of reasons. The first one being that if you want to affect the fall book topically, you've got to go earlier. I've worked with some clients that want to wait until later and then, and do it later in December. And by that point, you're in the holiday book and you're not getting the traction, in a meaningful rating period that you could if you went earlier.
Well, and if you wait till everybody's in the Christmas mood and they're ready to hear Christmas music, which traditionally has been Black Friday or Thanksgiving weekend or early Thanksgiving week in the US, you are flipping format at a time where everybody else is doing something around the holidays, and it's hard to stand out and get noticed. And especially if you are a secondary station that's not considered the Christmas music station in your market and you're challenging somebody who's already established, if you're not there before them, then you might as well not flip because you're never going to get traction with it.
I agree. I think anytime in November is fine.
Mike's right, though. I would say that if you are thinking that we want to flip around Thanksgiving, do it a week before Thanksgiving. If you're thinking, well, we want to get on by mid-November because the traditional Christmas music station comes on that first Monday before Thanksgiving, then do it 2 weeks before that. So whatever your tolerance is for it, back it up a week and do it before you think. Just hold your nose and do it, and that'll defy some of your good sense, or you're going to feel like this is too early, this doesn't feel right. But do it anyway, because it will affect both the fall and the holiday book. Now, Andy, you mentioned that you have an oldies station that goes all Christmas. Most of the time, the leading Christmas music stations are AC or contemporary Christian, because they have the traditional values that are attached to the brand that are more compatible with that. What are you finding with your oldies station?
It's paired very well with the oldie station, and I think we actually keep some of the cume because the music blends better with it. But I'm a firm believer that any format can go all Christmas. If no one in your market is doing it, especially any format, I don't think it has to be reserved to just AC, classic hits, with the caveat of unless you're still established from a recent flip yourself, I probably wouldn't do it. But
yeah. So if you're not all in, let's say you've decided that we can't be the Christmas music station, but we want to have some kind of a Christmas presence. How much Christmas music should a station play?
I used to be a one time per week on week 1, 2 times per week on week 2 progressive kind of guy, but I've totally come around on that. On stations that are playing Christmas music but not going all Christmas, you've kind of flipped my thinking. I believe in going heavier earlier.
Yeah, I think the slow and go was the way most programmers went, where we just start with a little bit and then we ramp up towards Christmas. But that's not where the audience's mindset is. I mean, when you hit Black Friday, people have gone into a whole different mode, and I think what you try to do is mirror the lifestyle of what's going on with your audience, and try to mirror that, I guess.
So yeah, the slow and go that Mike refers to is traditionally when you come up on Thanksgiving, you start with one song per day part. And then as you get into December, it's maybe one per hour, and then one per half hour, and then one per quarter hour. And by the time you get to Christmas Eve, you're all Christmas music on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, because what else are you going to do? I mean, it's a radio wasteland anyway, so you might as well go all Christmas music there. But if you really think about it, if you think about the listener experience, and if you think about how little the audience is tuned in per occasion, if you're just playing a song every day part, or even every hour, or even one every half hour, you're not playing enough to hold anybody who's interested in Christmas music. They're not even hearing it. And you're playing too much for those who are annoyed by it and miss the regular format. So you kind of end up being in the middle. So my recommendation is that if you're going to even be partially into Christmas music, you need to be in a lot heavier than that. And I would even go heavier on Black Friday weekend. Maybe you start in the US, start on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and go all Christmas music for the weekend, even if you're not planning to stay there, and then back off of it come Monday. And maybe go to one every half hour on Monday, and then the following week go every 15 minutes, and then tighten that up. So by Christmas Eve, Christmas week, you're a Christmas song every other song or so, and you're kind of Christmas. Does that work though? I think that would work really well if there's no all Christmas music station in the market. But can you be kind of all Christmas?
I think it works. And I think there's a rationale for it, like you described, following people's mindset. I think the progressive model is kind of outdated and sort of backwards from the way you should do it.
Yeah, I think that again, it's trying to find your strategic position in the market, whether you have a all Christmas station, and I also believe that I don't think every format can go all Christmas or heavily Christmas. I think that an active rock station, it's probably not a great idea. I don't think that the net result is going to be positive for you. But I think it's back to the whole idea of determining what your strategy is and then executing that. To your point, Tracy, earlier, I think some stations are kind of half in on a lot of things through the holiday. And I think making a more purposeful decision on how you're going to approach it is important.
Yeah. So when you're talking about Christmas, it comes down to the music. And this is a discussion I have with dozens of stations every year. What are we going to play? Should we be tight or should we play more variety? More songs get released every year. So it's great because as programmers, we hear the same Christmas songs. We hear the Burl Ives and the Gene Autry and the Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra over and over and over. And we think, man, can't we play some more contemporary versions of that versus the traditional? And then what about songs by artists in your format? To Mike's point, there's not very many active rock songs that fit Christmas. And if I were an active rock station, I probably wouldn't play any Christmas music. It just doesn't make any sense. Hip hop, probably the same. There might be some that come up and would filter in. But what do you think? Tight or more variety? What works?
It's been proven time and time again.
Yeah.
Tight works. There are, as we'll talk about here in a moment, there as within any music format or any music genre, there are the hits. There's a relatively small number of songs that are universal in appeal, that stand the test of time, that research year after year. And those are the songs your audience is coming for. And listening to Christmas music. So more so than ever, play the hits.
Yeah, I think the classics are king. And I would only err on the contemporary side if it's as popular as the classic.
Yeah, one of my mentors, when I first became a program director many years ago, I was a consultant named Frank Felix. And I was in Lincoln, Nebraska, a small medium market, and we were an album rock station up against the #1 station that was album rock. And Frank came into town and tightened our playlist down to where we were playing Stairway to Heaven like every 11 hours or something ridiculous like that. And I said, hey, Frank, this doesn't make any sense. So people are going to get burned out on it, and gave him all the traditional arguments about a tight playlist. And he said, let me tell you something. Never forget this. He said, if the competitor is playing nothing but the 20 greatest songs of all time over and over and over, you will beat them by playing the 19 greatest songs of all time over and over, because once every 20 songs, you're playing a better record. And that's an extreme, of course, but it's true. And the interesting thing is that the tighter a playlist gets, whether it's in a regular format or the Christmas format, the greater the perception of variety tends to be, because you're playing my favorite songs. So there's a handful of Christmas classics that are traditional that test well every year, and that list does change from year to year, but not by very much. It turns over and some new songs are introduced. Ken Benson's P1 Media does a safe list every year that's based on research. And every year there might be a couple of songs out of the top 60 or the top 80 that make it into that list and test playable. Last year, I think it was an Ariana Grande song that was released in 2014, made it onto that top 60 list for the first time, which is amazing. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because these songs don't get mass exposure over a long period of time. They're concentrated over a very short period, so it takes a long time for those songs to become as popular as All I Want for Christmas Is You. How about songs that are unique to your format? There's a lot of country artists that are doing Christmas albums and Christmas songs. Should we play those? Just because Alan Jackson comes out with a Christmas album, does that make it something that we should play? Does the audience care?
I think the bar, just like your bar on new ads at any given time is high, I think the bar should be really high when it comes to Christmas as well. There may be an Alan Jackson song that comes out, like you mentioned, the Ariana Grande, that's getting a lot of traction. That's a new Christmas song that's catching on. Then you should play it. But just because you play Alan Jackson, there's a new Alan Jackson Christmas song, that's not reason enough.
Yeah, the Christmas hits are the Christmas hits, and as you get closer to Christmas, and and we'll get to this here in a moment, but as you're adding in your secondary category, not in your powers, you may consider some of those that are appropriate, that are strong by AA artists. But again, I think it's back to playing the hits, which are kind of these universal songs that are steeped, a lot of them, in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah. There's also a strategy that as you get toward Christmas and you've got a lot of time spent listening coming into the format, you add some more songs into those secondary categories. And then when you get to Christmas week, tighten it up again, because that's the week where the greatest heat is on the station. There's more people who are coming in for the Christmas music then, and you want to be playing nothing but the best of it at that point. Christmas can also be a marketing tool. There's a lot of stations that will flip early. I think there's a station this year that flipped over Labor Day weekend, clearly to introduce a new format. So let's talk about that, about using a Christmas holiday season to launch a new brand or to rebrand a station, introduce a new idea, and whether or not that works in the post-Christmas impact. Once we get into the new year and habits get back to where they were before, does it really work to use it this way?
I think it's the perfect time to go all Christmas. You get the buzz of it, you get the new cume, and what's the downside if you're flipping your format?
Right. If you've got nothing to lose and you are flipping format, this is a great tool. The important thing to do, and it's a little difficult to be talking about your new formatting being a little more mercenary when you're trying to keep that Christmas feel. I think the important thing to do in that interim period is to really program Christmas well. You want it, obviously, your ultimate goal is to get to the new format, and you want to promote ahead and let the audience know that something's coming. But I think it's really important in the interim that you just don't throw a bunch of Christmas songs on the air. I think you have to be a really, really good Christmas station during that period.
Yeah, it's a stunt, but you got to land the stunt if you're going to have the desired impact. How much can you promote during all Christmas, though? Let's say you're using Christmas as a stunt to introduce a brand new format, and you're changing on December 25th at 10 o'clock in the morning. How do you introduce that new station as it leads up to it without violating the audience's expectation?
I think you're vague in the beginning and more, and you add details as you get closer, just like you would with any other kind of stunning or marketing tool.
Yeah, and you want to be careful not to violate the whole atmospherics of it and the Christmas expectation, but you got to be very clear. I mean, the whole point in doing this is to launch the new format, so you can't be so discreet that people don't understand that something's coming.
So specialty programming, how should we sound between the songs? And this goes for whether you're going to an all Christmas format or you're just reflecting the holiday season. This is a discussion that I have with a lot of shows this time of the year, where they're doing a somewhat edgy or aggressive feature, like a second date update or a forgive and forget, or something that is a little bit edgier. And yet they're trying to reflect these traditional family values at this time of the year. How do you reconcile that?
Well, go ahead, Andy.
I was just going to say, where it makes sense, I like the idea of weaving the holidays into the existing contest games and features, but one where it's not a good fit, I don't think there's anything wrong with leaving it out of that one.
Yeah, I think you need to integrate Christmas into your program. I mean, again, we're back to reflecting the audience and being a part of what they're into. So I think you want to sound like Christmas during the Christmas season. I think that when it comes to some of those features, I think whether it's a forgive and forget or phone pranks or whatever, I think you want to either take the edgier, meaner, mean-spirited, or what could be perceived as mean-spirited off, or rest a feature. You can do that during the holidays.
I wouldn't rest a major feature though.
Right.
If you have built your show around a prank call feature that you're doing every hour at the same time, I think if you adjust the focal point of it, the emotional impact that it has, soften it just a little bit, make it reflect the holidays, is much better than taking that off, because
Right.
you're removing one of the main cume builders that comes. If it's a secondary feature that you do once in a while and it's edgy, take it off, rest it. It'll be fresh when you bring it back on again at the beginning of the year, when Christmas is over. And if you're doing contests or games or anything like that, I would adjust those as well. Mix in some Christmas trivia questions. If you're playing $1,000 minute, or if you're playing a name that tune type feature, wrap a Christmas bow on it. Reflect what people are talking about. It's really easy to do that. Another tip is, if you are running any information segments, whether it's news or entertainment features, soften it a little bit. Nobody's tuning in for hard news, especially this time of year. It doesn't mean that you don't talk about Kanye or whatever the top stories are, but don't trash it quite as much. Don't be quite as aggressive with it, because it's not going to match what's going on when the songs come on and the imaging comes on that's reflecting more of a traditional value.
Yeah, and sarcasm, that sort of thing on morning shows, which is always difficult, is even more, we need to be even more sensitive to it during this time of the year.
Yeah. Now, don't change your personality. We're not suggesting that you would change the nature of your station or the nature of your show. You still want to be the same people, but you might emphasize certain aspects of your character profile a little bit more than others, and put some of the others on the back shelf until Christmas is over. A couple of things that always come up: imaging and talent. I find that a lot of times stations will make the music changes that they want to make to reflect the holidays, and the next thing they do is come up with a big promotion, and then they forget all about how to make the station sound like Christmas, the imaging in between, and how to coach the talent and how to keep the talent inspired and keep them focused through the holidays. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Well, in the imaging, I think it's a great place to incorporate listener and artist audio, and there's some tricks for collecting that and setting up ways to collect it through the website.
Yeah, just sonic things that can add, whether it's, Christmas bells or, Christmassy things. I mean, think about stores. I mean, how they stage everything. So think about staging the station for Christmas.
Yeah, a great example, if you watch the Hallmark Channel, and they've probably already flipped all Christmas movies by now. They usually do sometime in October. And they even carry that theme through, and they do Christmas in July, where they show all Christmas movies. But when they go to all Christmas, it's all Christmas. Even their commercials are wrapped in Christmas, and they have their talent on talking about what the holidays mean to them, some of the actors that are in the movies. I think stations should use their talent the same way. You should use your imaging the same way, the sound effects, really wrap it all in a Christmas cloak.
And I know it sounds silly, but it does help to have that Christmas vibe around the office. You know what I mean?
We had at one of my stations, we basically, we had a great talent in the afternoon, and she would decorate for each holiday, but particularly in Christmas, really deck out the studio. And I guarantee you that will help, with the feeling and what comes out of the speakers.
Yep.
I got a question a little bit ago about some specialty programming, which we'll keep for the question and answer session. But I'll tell you a story about a personality who dresses like Santa every day during the holidays so he can get into character and to be feeling it. That's my tease for the question and answers that are coming up. And if you have a question, you can type it into the chat box at YouTube Live. If you're watching at tjohnsonmediagroup.com, you're not able to access the chat box, but if you go to YouTube Live, you'd be able to do that. And we'll be taking your questions here in just a minute. So Christmas is over. It's noon on Christmas Day, and everybody's putting their gifts away, and they are back into the regular routines again, or getting back into a holiday routine. What do you do now? I call that the dead zone between Christmas and New Year's. And then you lead into January, and suddenly you're back the first weekday, the first work day after January 1st. And it like surprises us. Oh, it's here. It's a new year. Now what are we going to do? How do you approach those two times of the year?
Well, I'm stubborn, so I know all the data points to, and the fact that you're going to lose the large bulk of that cume if you go all Christmas. And but I'd still like to ask, what can we do to keep even some of that cume? Is this an opportunity to broaden our station's appeal just a little bit, to just keep a percentage of it? Or should we roll right into some contesting immediately to try to keep some of that cume? With vacations being around the holidays, a lot of times we just kind of blow off January, and I think that's a mistake.
I think that's the biggie. I think you got to hit the ground running. I mean, we've seen it before where morning show, Christmas falls in the middle of the week and they give the morning show the next 2 days off. And I think that any weekday after after Christmas, you want your talent back on. You want the station shining and being a good choice, particularly, if you've been all Christmas. You got to put your best foot forward. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of stations get really lazy and sloppy and fall into the malaise, that dead zone, and are not prepared for after Christmas.
It comes back to having a plan and being prepared for January and using that time in the dead zone to ramp from the momentum of Christmas into that dead zone and into January. And that's whether you're changing a complete format or you're just introducing a new feature, a new contest, a new promotion, a new game. It's the perfect time to introduce something new, but you've got to have a plan and you've got to be enthusiastic about it. And for personalities, one of the things that drives me crazy is that first weekday back. Let's say Christmas ends up on a Thursday or Friday, and you're off for that rest of the weekend, and you come back on Monday, and everybody, the audience is back into their real life again, but you've been off the air for 2 weeks now. And you come on and you act like we got to catch everybody up on what happened over the last 2 weeks. And they have turned the page and they have moved on, and they are so over hearing you talk about what you were doing on Christmas Eve.
Right.
So you've got to get into the audience's mindset so you can reflect that in January just as much as you try to reflect that at Christmas time going into the holidays. So we'll get to questions here in just a second. Again, you can type them into the chat box at YouTube Live. We do have a couple of resources for you. We have a brand new Christmas programming and promotion ebook that it was just released recently. It goes into a lot more detail on all the things we talked about today and more. It gets into a lot of promotions, ideas. It gets into topics. There's 30 topics, a topic for every day for your personalities to go over. I think it's a really good resource. You can check that out. Go to tjohnsonmediagroup.com and type in a search for Christmas programming, or it's also a link right there on the main page. Our partners at Benstown offer a free service every year. It's called Christmas in a Box. It's a bunch of sound effects and audio for imaging and promotion, the things that we were talking about today, to dress up your station, and they provide it absolutely free. It's available at benstown.com/landing-page/Christmas. But if you go to benstown.com and just type in a search for Christmas, you'll come to the Christmas in a Box for Benstown, and you can pick that up. And also, the top testing Christmas songs list for this year from P1 Media is not out yet. It will be soon. And when it is, you'll be able to download that from insidersradionetwork.com. And if you do a search for Christmas hits, you'll be able to pick that up. So that's some brief comments. We can't cover every aspect of Christmas in a 20-minute presentation, but that's some of the ways that you can win the holidays or address the holidays in your station and in your market. So let's get to a couple of the questions, guys. I had several come in. I've been watching my text and email, and also got an eye on the chat. So we'll start with a couple of these that came in by text. What are your opinions on special programming around Christmas? Like, for example, doing the NORAD tracking Santa, for example.
I mean, again, I think as long as it's purposeful and strategic, and there's a reason why you're doing it, it's promotable, it's marketable, I'm fine with some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
I love it. I think it really enhances, and the more you're into Christmas, the more effective that will be. If you're all in with all Christmas music, you need special programming because it's promotable, it's appointment setting, and there's some really cool things that you can do. A couple of them, for example, the NORAD Track Santa. If you go to NORAD, do a Google search for NORAD, and they have a imaginary Santa tracker that goes up on their site, and it's really robust. There's some really cool things that you can do with that. You can embed it on your site, and you can take some of the content they're having and do updated reports. One of my favorite features, and this is a story I'll tell you, it's the Santa Show, where if you have a personality who's good at doing this and can get into a Santa character, do a Santa Show. The station that I worked with in Halifax, Nova Scotia, had an AC station, and every night at 6 o'clock, the morning co-host on the show came in and did a show live for an hour, taking calls from parents and kids about what those kids want for Christmas. And it was fantastic because 6 o'clock at night in the winter is a dead zone for AC stations. Everybody tunes out. Night listening is really low, but now you've got something promotable, and you've got Santa as an air personality. And this guy got into it so much. He came in early every night, brought in his thermos of hot chocolate, put on a full-blown Santa costume, because he said, in order to be like Santa, I have to feel like Santa. And so he got into the Santa costume every night for a month. They started right after American Thanksgiving and went right up to Christmas with it every night for an hour. Now, some shows don't do it every day. You might do it on a morning show once a week on a Friday morning for an hour. You might do it just Christmas week for 15 or 20 minutes a day leading up to Christmas Day. But the Santa Show can be really, really effective.
Another idea is Need a Little Christmas, which is great. That's where you take a quarter hour, and this is for stations obviously not going all Christmas, but you take a quarter hour because everybody needs a little Christmas, and you particularly morning show, you take that with 15 minutes of Christmas music, Christmas content, Christmas features, and it's really a special way to treat a feater.
Yeah, you wrap that up and promote it as We Need a Little Christmas, and that's this morning at 8:15, and do it for 15 minutes. It's terrific. And as you get closer to Christmas, do it twice a morning, and then do it every hour for 15 minutes. And Christmas week, you might spread it out and do it for 20 minutes or 30 minutes every hour. All specialty programming at Christmas absolutely works. And I noticed in the chat, Kevin says, what about specialty programming? In past years, we have flipped our flashback lunch to a holiday lunch rather than all or heavy Christmas on weekdays. And I think that's really valid. That's a really good idea, because you can be that's what we mean by being kind of Christmas. There's a station in San Diego here for years that didn't go all Christmas, but come Thanksgiving weekend, they would go all Christmas, all weekend on Thanksgiving weekend. And then after that, they stayed all Christmas after 6 o'clock at night and all weekends. And then they played 3 or 4 Christmas songs during each hour of regular programming. And that was enough for them to be the Christmas station at the time. Mm-hmm. So the more you can do things like that, whether it's Need a Little Christmas, there's a good chance that you could be the Christmas station without going all the way, especially if you're in a smaller or medium market and nobody's going to go all Christmas. This key allows you to stay in format, but still own the position for that.
Yeah, all Christmas nights is a great way to do that, like you said.
Yeah, at night, because what do you got to lose? Exactly. It's risk reward. Take a look at your cume and your time spent listening after 7 o'clock at night compared to what you have 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and you're going to wonder why you don't experiment more at night already. Next question is, it doesn't seem worth it to flip to all Christmas because the ratings just go back to where they were before. What are your thoughts on that? Well, we touched on that a little bit. We talked about you're going to get a big fall and a big holiday book. You're going to get a big cume coming in. As Christmas gets closer, that time spent listening is going to increase. And you're even going to start getting some P1 listeners in both the fall and holiday book that may never listen to your radio station any other time. So there are some absolutely positive ratings impact. And if you think about it, it's kind of like having a short-term promotion. You do a big cash contest or a big cash promotion, you're going to attract new listeners coming to the station who may only be there for the contest and the promotion. So think of Christmas as kind of being the same thing in a way.
Right. And we've also talked about the leaky bucket idea that, that we're constantly losing audience. We need to replenish that. The fact is, you're probably not going to take a country P1, go all Christmas and make them a new AC P1 in the next year. But you could have a regular humor, in that P2 category or P3 category that's going to give you some quarter hours in the coming year. So there is some benefit there. You're not going to change a hardcore listener, a formatic music preference normally, but you are going to get some more P2, P3 cum in there that will help you.
And there are people that cross genres, obviously. So that's why I'm saying, like, I'm a little stubborn in that I always think we can keep some of these people. We shouldn't just discount that we're going to lose 100% of them when we go back to the other format.
Yeah, a lot of it might be they're attracted because their friend told them you need to listen to the Christmas station, and they get there and didn't know your station existed or what format you were. They may discover that oldies format for the first time and be excited by it. There's also a revenue aspect to this, especially for the stations who have gone all Christmas and have a history for doing so and a track record for ratings. And if you start early enough in marketing and promoting it to advertisers, and some of these stations will start in July and August in pre-selling the fall, November and December programming, and they're now promising ratings, much like television stations promise ratings, and they charge them for the ratings that they expect, and then they reimburse them if they fall short of that. So there are some really significant revenue opportunities that go beyond sponsorship for stations that become all Christmas. And that's another reason to start earlier. If you start in November and you can sell Christmas rates at a 50% premium to what you get in your regular rate, that's 60 days. That's a pretty significant chunk of the calendar where you're having a revenue impact.
And if you wait till December, that money's gone.
Yeah,
most of it.
Yeah. Next question is, if you were not an AC or a CCM, a contemporary Christian station, would you consider flipping to Christmas? We talked about that a little bit, but let's talk a little bit more about situations where if you're not in a traditional brand value format like contemporary Christian, AC, maybe hot AC, classic hits. Andy is an example of oldies, jazz, some of these types of formats that are particularly conducive for it, and you're not in that format. What are the situations where you would consider making the flip?
No one in your market is all Christmas.
Yeah,
right.
It is the big component. But other than that, I think other than maybe some active rock, or which there are less and less of those now anyway, other than active rock, I think any format can do it if no one's doing Christmas in your market, especially if you're thinking about tweaking anything.
Well, that's it. I think if you're going to use it to leverage that cum influx to expose, a new change, a freshening, a new approach. If you don't have a lot to lose as your, in terms of your position going into Christmas, I think it makes sense. I think it's a case by case basis, and it's back to being strategic about it rather than just saying, well, maybe we'll try to go all Christmas. There's got to be a reason, behind why you're doing it.
Yeah. So I got a couple of factors that go into it. If you have big personalities, if you've got a big morning show with a big footprint that can hold the audience, I would be much more comfortable with any format going in, because they're there for the morning show. And so it doesn't matter what music you play, they're going to listen. So you can flip to Christmas safely with that. Also, big personalities can help endorse the Christmas format. The other, we talked about it, kind of the format Hail Mary. We've got nothing to lose. We're going to blow the whole thing up. There's no equity in this brand in January, so let's do something to get some attention and use it as a stunt. If, as Andy mentioned, if nobody else in town is doing it, why not? Take a shot, give it some consideration. And one other situation I've recommended that is, if you're a distant second in a direct format battle. Let's say you're a hot AC station and you are just getting your butt kicked by the dominant hot AC station, and you aren't where you want to be, but you're not blowing up the format. Why not do something to get some attention for it?
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe that's a way to reassess and blend whether you're going to be a hot AC with a couple more throwbacks or something on the backside of that.
Yep. Okay, let's look at a couple of the questions that came in the chat. To Chuck Taylor, hey, thanks for coming in, Chuck. He says, what about in a niche format? In his market in Texas, they play Texas Americana music instead of mainstream country, and the audience tends to get annoyed when we play too much Christmas music. And Andy Meadows can speak to this because he programmed a lot of those stations and lives right down there, right in the heart of Texas.
Well, and I still have a station that does that in Lubbock, Texas. I would never go all Christmas on that particular format, or the one Chuck's talking about. I certainly wouldn't go all Christmas on it. But I don't think there's, and I know you're going to get pushback, but I don't think there's harm in throwing in some Christmas music even on that format.
Okay. Specialty program that we answered that from Kevin. Andrew says, I do afternoons for an all Christmas station. Do you think all my breaks should be Christmas focused as well? Great question. What do you think, guys?
I don't think
much.
Well, yeah, I disagree. I don't think they all have to be Christmas, as long as, like you're saying, the lifestyle fits. It kind of depends what you mean by all Christmas. Are you talking about something just Christmas related every single time? Or are you talking about the things that people are thinking about more this time of year than other times a year? Then that would be every break. Is that confusing the way I said that?
No, I think I
understand. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I mean, I think that it's got to be compatible. It's got to be referencing the season or what people are doing, lifestyle, that sort of thing. I think otherwise, if you're just off doing random content, I think it actually detracts from the whole notion of going all Christmas.
I would err on the side of being all Christmas. Because, I mean, if your station is all Christmas and you're doing a big Christmas promotion or promotions, and the imaging is all Christmas, and you're on talking about whatever that isn't related to Christmas, then you're out of format at that time of year. And it's such an opportunity to make that big impact and a big footprint with what the brand is doing overall, and a chance for you as a personality to stand out because you're demonstrating that you love the same things that the listener is coming to the station for at that time of year. It's a chance to advance your character, your personality presence, and to honor the mood service that the audience is coming in for. So I agree that you don't have to be 100% all, what do you want for Christmas this year? But there's so many topics that are Christmas-y, or in talking about the office parties that are coming up before Christmas. What did you want for Christmas when you were a kid that you never got? Who's done their Christmas shopping by now? And as you get toward Christmas, make it a little bit more Christmassy. But there's so many times. What's the right time of the year? What's the last date of the year that you can break up with someone before it's too late before Christmas? What's the drop dead date where you're stuck with them? Or are you sticking with someone during the holidays because you want a gift from them? You can do that a little bit further out. And it's content that you would normally be doing anyway, but you wrap it in a Christmas box. Think of it like if you're buying a gift for someone for their birthday, you would wrap it in a birthday gift. If you're giving them the same gift for them at Christmas, you would wrap it in a Christmas package. So wrap whatever content you're doing in a Christmas package and make it work, because it will put a big exclamation point on your brand.
Same thing for your features and benchmarks. As opposed to blowing those off and just killing them, do holiday versions of those same features and benchmarks, like you said.
And last question that I've got here, and if there's any more that are coming in the chat box, go ahead and send those now. It can be about Christmas, or it can be about anything regarding personality radio and programming. We're happy to answer those questions and stay on as long as the questions come in. But what are some promotions that you think are worth considering or doing to capture the audience's attention at Christmas.
I love that 12 acts of Christmas kindness that you suggested on a couple of shows that I coach last year. They had a lot of fun with that. It worked really well. They even wanted to bring it back and do a version of it at different times of the year.
Yeah, there's that's
a great promotion if you're short-staffed or don't have a lot of resources, and because any station can do that. You just take a random act of kindness for 12 days in the 2 weeks leading up to Christmas. And the morning show goes out and does it, and then encourages the audience to be out doing the same thing or something similar that they're doing.
And it makes phenomenal social and web content too.
Right. There's some of the big ones that require a little effort and planning, and probably a little too late to try to throw those together this year. But things like the Christmas Wish, which are incredibly powerful, perennial promotion, Breaking and Entering, which was, as Tracy knows, was on his watch here at B100 in San Diego. There's even, for some of my edgier stations, I've got a classic rock station that is looking at doing Scared Straight by Santa. All these are in the ebook that just came out.
Yeah. So a lot of good ideas in there, and also on insidersradionetwork.com you can get a ton of promotion ideas. If you're a subscriber, if you're not a member, it's easy to sign up. You can do it for just $1 for the first couple of weeks. And for content for personalities, personalitymagnet.com has a huge library of Christmas content, games, features, contests, and things like that. Last question, we'll wrap it. Kevin says, we have a AAA station, and we're planning on having local artists and bands come in and do a couple of holiday songs and play those back to underscore our support of the local music scene. I love that. Mm-hmm. That it was such a great fit for a AAA station to be connected to local music, and having them do holiday songs puts that in context. What a great idea. What a great application of the resources.
And Chuck, you should steal that for your station, because that works on that Texas Red Dirt Americana format as well.
Yeah. I forget what market it was. It's an AC station that does a Christmas choir competition every year, which sounds really old. And it's like, why would I want to do that? That sounds so boring. But there's so many school programs that are being put together this time of the year, and churches that are getting together for their big events. And if you do a Christmas choir competition, you will get tremendous response to it. And they will tell all their friends about it to go on your website and vote for their choir. So it's a great way to expand what you're already doing. One more question came in. Our morning show is doing Christmas Wish already. It's a Christmas Wish style promotion. What would you recommend I do in the afternoons as a benchmark?
That's a good question.
Yeah, sorry. Christmas wish list in the morning.
Christmas Wish is going on with the morning show. So there's a couple of things that you can do. Number one,
that random acts of kindness would work.
Yeah. The random acts of kindness would work. There's, if you are an animal lover, the 12 Strays of Christmas is a terrific promotion, and it gets you so you get dogs and cats adopted from the shelter, but you don't have to go on the air and talk about them a lot. All the details for that are up on Insiders. Another option is not do anything. Promote the Christmas Wish. Retell those stories in the afternoon. Cycle the audience back to the morning show. Leverage the strength and the attention that Christmas Wish is getting, and reappropriate that attention in your personality in the afternoon. Another, depending, and Andrew, I don't know your show, and I don't know how edgy you are, but Mike mentioned Scared Straight by Santa is fantastic. Scared Straight by Santa is where you get parents whose kids are a problem right now, and they're having a hard time with them, and they tell you why, and you call the kids and as Santa and tell them that they are in danger of being put on the naughty list instead of the nice list, and get them to tell you what they're doing and promise they're going to straighten up and fly right. So there's all kinds of things that you can do in small. I wouldn't try to do something major though. If they're doing Christmas wish in the morning, I wouldn't do breaking and entering Christmas in the afternoon because it just becomes competitive.
Could you do a variant on the Santa show? Like say that guy doesn't work as a Santa, that afternoon guy. Could he do a variant on that where he's an honorary elf and he has Santa's ear? So as people call in, parents call in and let
or get somebody that you know who would be a good Santa and use them on the phone.
Yep, there you go.
Right.
So hey, we've got a direct pipeline to Santa, and so you get kids to call in, get parents to call in, and do some things with that, or do some contests and games that represent it. And one more comment, Rico says 12 strays is easy to do these days. Most shelters are social driven, so they can email you pictures and videos of each animal, and talent can make a short video about each animal with themselves in it. And that's really the key, is to do a video with the animals in it, with the talent, and get that video up on the shelter's website.
Because put a little Santa hat on the dog too.
Yeah.
And at Insiders, we've got a whole how-to guide on 12 Strays of Christmas if you go there, and some videos from the Burt Show that has done it for several years. Do a remarkable job with it, and it's terrific. So check that out. Thank you so much for coming to the workshop today about Christmas programming and personality. Our next one will be in about 2 weeks, and we look forward to seeing you then.